Hello there and welcome. I'm so glad you stopped by. My name is Richard Pino, and I'm an associate professor of teaching at Wayne State University in the Department of Mathematics. And I'm here to talk to you about the different programs that my department offers to hopefully spark your interest into pursuing a degree in mathematics. You know, mathematics is one of those fascinating disciplines that many say is an important foundational piece to a lot of the things that we do in this world, not just related to the sciences or engineering, but even beyond that, medicine, in art, it's everywhere. And so glad you're here as we look at some of the reasons why you should get into pursuing a degree in mathematics. So one of the questions that usually comes up is, why should you study math? And so this is an important question that maybe you have wondered. And the easy answer to this is it helps you to build on these essential skills that you see on the screen, but also a lot more. You know, mathematics combines a lot of different thought processes that you may not have always realized that you engage in when you're trying to solve a particular math problem. So among the highlights, we have analytical thinking skills and logical reasoning skills. You know, logical reasoning is an important component, not just to math, but it's also related to other disciplines, such as political science, when you're trying to form an argument or convince people, such as in a debate. Certainly, when you're writing a position paper, like in an English class or in a sociology course, being able to frame your ideas in a logical way is important in framing those arguments. Of course, mathematics promotes a great deal of collaboration. It's not something that you just work on by yourself and that's it, but there really is a sense of community that can follow from that. Of course, your problem-solving skills leading to more innovative thinking are important. And ultimately, what all these things lead to is greater perseverance. And that's something that I think a lot of employers look for is, are you able to overcome challenges? And if so, what are those lessons learned from that? Now, in terms of the degree programs that are offered by our department, we have two different bachelor's degrees, a Bachelor of Arts and a Bachelor of Science. And so if you're not sure which one to take, a BA versus a BS, that's a very good question to discuss with your advisor, because there may be advantages or disadvantages depending on what your particular track or future career aspirations will be. But you notice for the Bachelor of Arts, we offer degrees in math, actuarial math, and mathematical economics. And on the other side of this, the Bachelor of Science, of course, in math and in statistics. And statistics is one of our more newer programs. The minors we have are in math and statistics. If you're wondering what is a minor, it's sort of like your secondary specialty. So you come to the university, you major in something, that is your specialty, and then the minor is kind of like your secondary specialty. And minors are particularly important, especially if you pair them with a major. And so if you've got your heart set on a particular major already, maybe you want to consider math or statistics as a minor. It certainly works hand in hand, and a lot of employers will be looking to see what your minor area of study is as well, and it gives you some things to talk about in the job interview, and of course essential skills that you can apply right in the day-to-day functions of your job. Now, in terms of what you can do with a math degree, there's quite a bit. So if you pursue a mathematics degree, either on the pure or applied side, so what's the difference? Well, pure is more theoretical, the theoretical foundations for why we get to do the different things that we do in math classes. And applied is exactly as it sounds. It's where you take the math and you actually use it in a particular context, such as economics or finance or computer science. There are many aspects to the applied side. But you see some of the career paths that you can take here: programming, systems analysis, cryptography, etc. And businesses do tend to hire math majors with a focus on management. Okay, that's an important one. Certainly financial analysts and market analysts, because a lot of the things that businesses try to do are to make predictions, to project, okay, but also to study trends. And that's an important certainly in the financial world. And of course, teaching, K-12, and graduate study if folks are looking to head further on. Mathematical economics is another one. This is a combined degree program that we have with the Department of Economics, our friends and colleagues there. And you see the different careers that you can get into related to the economic aspect of the career field, such as bank officer, credit analyst, etc. And of course, you can dive into some of the insurance realm with actuaries and underwriters that work a lot in the insurance trade. Statistics, as I said, is one of our newer programs, and it is beginning to take a pretty good hold because a lot of employers are looking for people who have the ability to do some sort of software analysis or data analysis with software to just kind of understand data. Data-driven decisions are becoming a big thing, not just in higher education, such as the university, but also in the public and private sector as well. And you might be interested to note that statisticians are ranked first in best business jobs and second in best STEM jobs by the U.S. News in 2018. If you're wondering what the second best business job is, well, you don't have to look any further than actuarial math. Okay, the actuarial math study risk. So that's the number 2 best business job, and it's also the 3rd best in STEM jobs. And actuarial mathematicians actually have a very least stressful occupation as rated. So you see some of the advantages to studying math. So who would have thought that it was one of the best jobs that we have, but it is in terms of statistics and actuarial math. Now, other things that we offer in our department. So if you're wondering, okay, I come to Wayne State, I decide to pursue a degree in mathematics, what else you guys got? Well, we have the Emerging Scholars Program, or ESP as we call it. This is an honor level program that covers courses from pre-calculus, calculus 1, and calculus 2. And what you do is you take the math class, and then there's a collaborative workshop that goes along with it. You work on some problem solving skills with your peers, the others who are in the class. And so I was a student who actually took the Emerging Scholars Program when I was a freshman at Wayne State University for Calculus 1 and Calculus 2. And it was a great experience, and I would encourage you to check it out as well. We have the Math Resource Center, or MRC as we call it. This is a free tutoring resource for you to provide you with some support if you need it. And as you go higher up in the mathematics, you'll be able to work there as a tutor, as a paid tutor. So look for those sort of opportunities. We also have an undergraduate mathematics research seminar. For more information, feel free to email us at math@wayne.edu. But what this does is it pairs you with one of our current math faculty members who may be working on a particular math project or math problem. And ultimately, as you work on this problem with the faculty member, it leads to either a conference presentation or potentially a publication in a decent mathematics journal. How cool would that be in your undergraduate years to be a published author doing some research? We also have the Mathematics Mentoring Program, which is new, effective fall 2021. For more information, you can email math@wayne.edu. Recruitment for the Math Mentoring Program begins in September. And what we do is we pair you with a Wayne State alumni who is interested or has worked in a similar career path that you're looking to get into. So for example, if you're interested in actuarial mathematics, we can look to pair you with an actuary. And the good news there is not only is it someone who's in your career path, but they're also a former Wayne State student. So how awesome is that? And finally, we do have a little bit of fun. We have a contest, the problem of the week. It is a weekly problem that runs in the fall and winter semesters, and the winners are recognized at our award ceremony that usually takes place in mid to late April. So those of you who may have AP exam credits or scores, this is what the AP exam will do for you. So if this does fit, that you have taking some AP courses, this is what it can get you out of: Calculus 1, Calculus 2, potentially probability and statistics. And that's great if you can come in having these courses done, because it means you get to get started on the higher level stuff a lot sooner. So it helps you to finish up your degree program much quicker. And before we part ways, who are some famous people who majored in math? We can't let this conversation go without recognizing who some of the famous folks are. So those of you who love Netflix, hey, the co-founder, chairman, CEO, Reed Hastings, he majored in math. Isn't that cool? Alan Turing, those of you who know your history, was absolutely instrumental in helping to break the German Enigma code for the Allied powers during World War II. It's one of my interests outside of mathematics, of course, and made a very big difference in the war efforts. Mary Erdos, chairman and CEO, JP Morgan, private bank. Lewis Carroll, okay, Robert McNamara, former defense secretary. Mike Seidel from the Weather Channel, many more. The next person we want to add to the list is you. Okay, so how do we get you on the list? Well, if you have any questions, feel free to email us at math@wayne.edu, give us a call, or if you're on campus, we'd love for you to stop by, take a look at some of our programs and meet some of the faculty. We're on the first floor of the Faculty Administration Building, or FAB as we call it, room 1150. That building, what does it look like? It's pictured there right on your screen. And of course, feel free to follow us on social media. We are on Twitter and Facebook. Thanks so much. We hope you'll seriously consider studying math.